Welcome back everyone. You are watching the EKS series. We have already covered most of the fundamentals part, and in this video we will be moving towards observability. So let's get started. Alright, so I have this EKS cluster already created here, and it was created using this CloudFormation template. And if you want to see how it is created, you just have to go and watch the second video of the series. Alright, so I have all these resources which were just created through this CloudFormation template. Now what I'll do is I'll just move to my cluster. Okay, and we'll start by monitoring our resources from the console itself, because most of the people still prefer the console for most of their day-to-day work. All right, so what you have to do is, all you have to do is just go to the resources section right here, and then you can see all of your Kubernetes resources listed here. I'll do just click on this pod templates, pods, replica sets, and clusters, nodes, and all other stuff. But you must have noticed one thing, that right now I'm not able to see anything here, and the error right here says this cluster does not have any nodes, or you don't have permissions to view them. Right, this is true for all other resources as well. If I go to workloads and if I see pods, I won't be able to see the pods as well. And right now the reason for this is because the AWS permissions and Kubernetes permissions both are different. You might have administrator permissions for your AWS account, but it does not necessarily mean that you can access the Kubernetes resources as well. And you can see this here as in the top as well. Your current IAM principal doesn't have access to Kubernetes objects on this cluster. Please create an access entry. If you are not aware, the access to the EKS resources is managed by access policies, and it's somewhere right here. So if you just go to this access tab right here, you will see the access entries which are already existing for my EKS cluster. But what I'll do is I'll just add a new access entry for my current user from which I have logged into my account. And to do that, what I need to do is, first of all, I'll head over to my EC2 instance where I have the EKS kubectl installed, and it's called the kubectl server. I'll just open it and I'll connect to this instance. Alright, so I'm inside my instance now. I'll just switch to the root. And if you are following this series, you must be aware that I have to add an access entry, or the entry in my kubeconfig file. And how do we do that? We just have to run this command, specify the region where my cluster is running, and I have to specify the name of my cluster, which is prod. Okay, so the entry is added in the kubeconfig file. I'll also add an alias here because it makes it easy to run your commands. Now if I see, you'll see that I have this kubectl get pods. I don't have any pods running right now. So how do we add access entry here? Well, I have this GitHub repository right here where I've mentioned all the commands. So I'll move to this section called 06 observability, and I'll open the first file here, which is called enable console access. So we have this command here which is AWS EKS create access entry, where you have to specify your cluster name and the principal to which you want to provide the permissions. For me, it's my root user, and I've already modified this command, so I'll just copy it and I will just paste it here in my terminal. Okay, it says access entry type must be EC2 Linux, Windows, or something. Alright, seems to be something wrong here. I'll just capitalize it. Okay, so the access entry is created. Okay, so the access entry is created, but I have not added any permissions yet. Well, I'll just head over to the cluster, and if you see right now, I do not have permissions yet. Okay, and if I go to access and go to access entries, you will see access entry somewhere here. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll just add a permission here. And how we do that? Wait, let me just refresh it. Yeah, so I have this access entry created here, and if I click on it, you'll see that I do not have any access policies added yet. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this command and I'll add a policy called Amazon EKS cluster admin policy, which will give it the permission to be a root user, or to be the admin of this cluster. So I'll head over to my terminal and I'll just paste this. Okay, so the permission policy has been added. Now if I go to my cluster, which is right here, And if I go to resources now you'll see that I'm able to access all my resources. Currently I have these pods running which are running in my kube system namespaces. And if I go to cluster and see the nodes, you'll see that I can access my nodes as well. So this is one way of just going through your resources through the console. I'll just see the service accounts, and let's try creating a pod so that we can see it here. Okay, so I will head over to my terminal and I'll create a simple pod here, kubectl. Let me first create a namespace. Kubectl create namespace test. Okay, so my namespace is created. I'll create a pod now. Kubectl run test, and the image is going to be nginx, our favorite image, and I'll try to run it in the namespace that I recently created. Okay, so it says the pod is created. Now what I'll do is I'll head over to my AWS console and I'll just select just you need to give it a refresh so that it gets updated. And now you can see this pod right here, which is test. All right, now you can filter it through the namespace as well. So in the test namespace I have this pod running which is called test. I'll just open it and you can see other details here as well, including the IP address here and the node in which it is scheduled. Okay, so this is one part. Now what I'll do is, so we have already done this part, okay, where we can just access our resources through the console. Now what we'll do is we'll just head over to this monitoring section. So if you just go to your cluster and you go to this observability tab, you will see that here you can control the control plane logs. Okay, and by default the API server and audit logs are enabled, but you do not have any logs enabled for authenticator, scheduler and control manager. So what I'll do is I'll just run this command. Okay, and this command will enable all other loggings as well. So I'll just paste it here, but before entering this command I'll have to replace a few values, which in my case are gonna be the cluster name and the AWS region. So I'll give my cluster name here, which is prod, and I'll enter the region, which is AP South 1 in my case. Okay, so the command ran successfully, and now if I go to my cluster and give it a refresh, okay, it will take some time. And you can see that all of them are enabled now, and you can just see the logs by clicking on this link right here, which will take you to the dedicated Cloudwatch log group. So this is the Cloudwatch log group, and you just need to just focus on one part, that it starts with AWS EKS and then you have your cluster name and then cluster. Okay, so these are the authenticator logs. Similarly, you have logs for scheduler, controller manager, audit logs and API server logs. Okay, so this part is done. Now we'll move to the next part, which is to use Fluent Bid. So what is Fluent Bid? So Fluent Bid is just an agent which helps you to ship your logs from your Kubernetes cluster to your Amazon Cloudwatch. It works for ECS as well as EKS. So by default, whenever a pod is created, by default standard, the logs from the pods are sent to a specific location in the nodes, and I'll show you exactly where you can check that. So I'll head over to my EC2 console and I'll SSH into one of my worker nodes. So this is one of my worker node. I'll just click on connect, and yeah, now I can connect from here. I'll switch to the sudo user, and the logs by default are shipped to where, and you will just see cd logs. Okay, and here you can see something called pod. So you can see these pods here. Okay, and I have these 3 pods running here. These are the kube system pods, or the pods which belong to the control plane, and this is the pod that I launched. Okay, so by default the pods are shipped to the nodes and they are not sent to Cloudwatch logs. Now what we'll do is we'll configure FluentBit so that we can send the logs from our pods to CloudWatch. Okay, I'll just close this terminal. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, what we need to do is we need to create a namespace called Amazon Cloudwatch. Make sure you just keep the same name because this is mandatory. kubectl create namespace Amazon Cloudwatch. Alright, so my namespace is created. Now what we have to do is we have to create a config map that defines the FluentBit. Okay, so first of all, I'll just export this value so that it's easy for me to substitute in the command. Cluster name is prod. My cluster region is gonna be AP South 1. Alright, this is done as well. Now I'll just copy this entire command and I'll paste it in the terminal. Okay, so it says the config map FluentBit cluster info is created, and how you can check that? Well, just have to run kubectl get config map and the namespace should be Amazon Cloudwatch. So you can see this is the namespace that we created recently. Let's see what we need to do next. Now we need to create an IAM role so that FluentBit can use that IAM role to ship our logs from the cluster to the Amazon Cloudwatch. So what you have to do is create an IAM role with the following trust policy. Okay, so I'll head over to IAM. And I'll just open identity provider in a new tab because it will be needed. Go to roles, click on create role, and for the policy select custom trust policy and paste the policy which is provided here, which is this one. Just remove this entire part and paste your policy. And now we need to remove this part and provide the ARN of our OIDC provider. So I've opened this identity provider tab already. I'll just open this OIDC provider which belongs to my cluster and I'll copy the ARN from here. I'll paste the ARN here. So this is done. And now I also need to substitute this value here which is called OIDC provider. You can get it from here. Okay, it's copied. I'll just paste it here. Okay, so this is done. I'll click on next. I'll click on next, and for the role name I'll give it a name called FluentBit role. Okay, I have not added any permissions yet. Click on edit. Okay, and now we are in this add permissions tab. What you need to do is you need to add this permission called CloudWatch agent server policy, which is AWS managed policy. So it will be already created for you. So I'll just paste it here. I'll select this policy and I'll click on next, and the role I'll use is FluentBit role, and I'll click on create role. Alright, so my role is created. Let's see what we need to do next. Now we need to annotate our service account. So if I go to my cluster and if I see the pods, let me see if I have already created the pods or not. No, I have not installed FluentBit. So what you need to do is first you need to install FluentBit. The moment you run this command right here, it will create a bunch of resources for you, including the service account and the pods. So I'll just copy it. I'll paste it here. Alright, so you can see this. These are the resources which are created for you, and all of them will be in the Amazon Cloudwatch log namespace. Alright, so if I just see this service account, you just first run the command get service account namespace Amazon Cloudwatch. You will see that this is the service account which is created, and it is used by the pods which are running here. I can see the pods as well. kubectl get pods. Okay, so these are the two pods which are running in the Amazon Cloudwatch log namespace, and these two pods are responsible for shipping our logs from our pods to the Amazon CloudWatch. Okay, and right now if you just go to your CloudWatch console, you will see that there are no log groups which are created for you, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is, well, I'll show you the reason. Just copy out the pod name and do kubectl logs -n Amazon CloudWatch. They're running fine for now. Let's annotate our service account. So just copy this, open your notepad or anything, and you need to provide the name of your role that you created for FluentBit. Okay, and you need to replace it here. So I will copy the role, FluentBit role, copy the ERN from here, and I will paste it here. Okay, so this is created, and now I'll just copy and paste it in my terminal. Okay, so the service account is annotated. Now let's try creating some pods and see if the logs are getting shipped to CloudWatch. So what I'll do is, I have this deployment template here. I'll just use it to create a deployment for us. I'll just create a simple file called deploy.yaml. I'll paste it here, and I'll apply this file using kubectl apply. Okay, so our deployment is created. Let's see, kubectl get pods, and it's in container creating state. We'll just have to wait for a few seconds. Okay, now our pods are running. Now let's see if our logs are getting shipped here. So I'll just refresh it. Okay, I don't see any logs still. And let's try to find out why. So if you see here, I'm getting this error which says access denied exception, failed to create log stream. And the reason behind this is, when I created the pods, I did not annotate the service accounts, and my pods have not been refreshed. So what I'll do is, I'll just see kubectl get daemon set, because our pods are managed by daemon set, and I'll put the namespace name here. So you will see this is the daemon set. I'll just restart this daemon set once. kubectl rollout, restart deployment, my bad, restart daemon set, FluentBit, and the namespace is going to be Amazon CloudWatch. Alright, so my daemon set is refreshed. Now if I see the pods, kubectl namespace Amazon CloudWatch, get pods. Alright, my pods are spinning up. Let's just wait for a few seconds. Alright, now my pods are running. Now if I go to my CloudWatch and give it a refresh, you will see a new log group here, which is called AWS Container Insights Prod application. I'll just open it, and you will see there are two log streams here. Okay, and if you see, these are the logs here. You can just ignore this for now. Now what I'll do is, I'll also restart the deployment that I created using the file. So if I do kubectl get deployment, I have this deployment running here. I'll just refresh it, kubectl rollout restart deploy, and this is my deployment name. Alright, so my pods are restarted. Let's wait for a few seconds. Okay, so now they have started. Now if I go to my CloudWatch again, I'll see a few new log streams here. So these are my log streams. I'll just open the most recent one, which is this in my case, and the log says the time is Saturday, November 29, and it says my time and the date as well. And why is it shipping these logs? Because if you see the deployment file right here, we have this command section here in our pod specification, which just ships the logs, the time and the date and other stuff to the CloudWatch log group. So this is producing these logs, and now these logs are being shipped to Amazon CloudWatch from here. Apart from this, we also have other log stream which belongs to the Nginx pod, Nginx container, because if you see this deployment, we have two pods here. One of them is the Nginx pod, which is producing its default logs, okay, which we are definitely not interested in. And then we have other container here, which is the logger container, and it's shipping these logs to the CloudWatch. Okay, so now we are able to move our logs from the default directory to Amazon CloudWatch, and we can have a bit of more observability into our application logs. So this was all in this video. I mean, it was a short video, but this is it, and I'll see you in the next one. And please subscribe to see the more upcoming content. Tata, bye bye.